My parents left me nothing, but I inherited millions from a stranger. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. I always imagined that, when my parents were gone, I'd at least have something to remember them by. A letter, a photo, my mother's locket, the one she said was for someone special. Anything but this silence. Instead, I sat in a stuffy lawyer's office, suit too tight, heart beating out of my chest as he read the will aloud. My brother got the house. My sister, the lake cabin, and our mother's jewelry. Even my cousins, barely present in our lives, were named. Me? Nothing. And to my youngest, I leave my love and hopes for the future. That was it. A few words and a smile from the lawyer that might as well have been a punch to the gut. My siblings wouldn't even meet my eyes. You always were the outsider, my sister muttered later, not quite under her breath. My brother shrugged and started talking renovations, as if my whole world hadn't just caved in. For days, I walked through our empty house, looking for answers in creaking floorboards and faded wallpaper. I replayed every argument, every moment I disappointed them. Had I really been such a burden? Was this their final message, that I was never truly family? A week after the funeral, a letter arrived. Not from my parents, but from a lawyer I'd never heard of. Inside, crisp white paper trembled in my hands. You are the sole beneficiary of the late Mr. Harold L. Devlin's estate. Please contact us regarding your inheritance. I dropped the letter like it burned. Who the hell was Harold Devlin? Why would a total stranger leave me anything, let alone millions? That night, I dreamed of my parents' faces, cold, unreadable. When I woke, my phone buzzed with a call from a blocked number. If you know what's good for you, you'll refuse the money. A distorted voice hissed before hanging up. Suddenly, the pain of being disowned felt like just the beginning. Something much darker was waiting for me. The call haunted me long after the line went dead. I tried to rationalize it, some prank, maybe a mix-up. But there was something too deliberate about the voice, too practiced in menace. Refuse the money? I didn't even know if the inheritance was real. The next morning, I stood outside Devlin and Associates, hands sweating inside my pockets. Every time I tried to step through the glass doors, my mind flashed back to the will, to my mother's sharp eyes, my father's forced smile at my graduation. My family's rejection was still raw, a wound that wouldn't close. Now some stranger's fortune threatened to tear it open further. Inside, the office was silent except for the ticking of an ornate clock. A woman in a crisp navy suit greeted me with professional detachment. You must be. Yes, please follow me. She led me down a carpeted hallway to a windowless conference room. A single folder sat on the table. My name, handwritten on top. The lawyer, Mr. Green, smiled too widely. Mr. Devlin was a private man, but his wishes were very clear. He slid the folder toward me, but I hesitated. How did he know me? I demanded, voice shaky. Mr. Green blinked, as if surprised I'd ask. He instructed us not to reveal the nature of your connection, only that you were important to him. I felt dizzy. This has to be a mistake. I've never met a Harold Devlin in my life. Mr. Green only pushed a stack of documents across the table, deeds, bank statements, photographs. Your inheritance is real. The estate is substantial, properties, investments, liquid assets totaling over $11 million. My breath caught. 11 million. I traced my finger over a faded photo. An unfamiliar man in a military uniform, arm around a young woman who looked just like my mother. The lawyer cleared his throat. There are conditions, and not everyone is happy about your inheritance. Just then, the office window rattled as if something had struck the glass. I spun around, heart pounding, and caught a glimpse of a shadow vanishing into the street. Someone was watching, and I was more tangled in this stranger's life than I'd ever been in my own family's. I stumbled out of the law office, clutching the folder so tightly my knuckles went white. The city felt colder, sharper, like everyone might be watching me. $11 million from a stranger, and a warning call that chilled my bones. I tried to tell myself it was paranoia, but every face on the street seemed a little too curious, every shadow a little too long. That night, I spread the contents of the folder across my kitchen table. There were property deeds, investment portfolios, and several faded photographs. The man, Harold Devlin, stood with my mother in more than one picture. Sometimes she was smiling, sometimes looking away. In one, Her hand rested gently on his shoulder. Had my parents lied about everything? Was this the real reason they left me nothing? The phone rang again. This time, I let it go to voicemail. A man's voice, tense and breathless. You think you're special? That money isn't yours. Stay away or you'll regret it. The line went dead. My heart thudded in my ears. Unable to sleep, I scoured the internet for Harold L. Devlin. The obituary was simple, no family listed, a philanthropist, decorated veteran. The rest was just fragments, mentions in local articles, real estate records, nothing that tied him to me. The next day, I drove to the address listed for one of the properties. The house was a crumbling Victorian on the edge of town, half hidden by overgrown hedges. I got out, heart hammering, and as I approached the front door, a figure appeared on the porch, a woman in her late 50s with steel gray hair and eyes that cut right through me. You shouldn't have come here, she hissed, voice low. Some secrets are better left buried. She looked me up and down, then slammed the door in my face. Standing alone in the cold, I realized I wasn't just unwanted by my parents. I was unwanted by the past, too. And now, I had no idea if the truth would set me free or destroy me completely. I sat in my car outside the Victorian house, the engine off, silence pressing in on all sides. My hands shook as I replayed the woman's words. Some secrets are better left buried. Who was she? How did she know Devlin or me? Unable to leave empty-handed, I circled the property, searching for any sign of life. The curtains twitched in an upstairs window. For a moment, I caught a glimpse of that same steely gaze staring down, then disappearing into the darkness. Something told me this house held more than memories. As I drove away, a battered pickup pulled up behind me, its headlights blinding. The driver leaned on the horn, forcing me to speed off into the night. When I glanced in my rearview mirror, the truck was still there, tailing me for several blocks before finally peeling away. Paranoia was becoming my constant companion. That night, I tossed and turned, the folder's documents scattered across my bed. One envelope, marked private in shaky script, caught my eye. Inside, I found a handwritten letter addressed to my mother. My hands trembled as I read. Dearest M, I hope someday you'll forgive me. I only ever wanted to protect you, and him. I kept my promise. But if you're reading this, then he deserves to know the truth. The letter was unsigned. Protect you, and him. Was I him? What promise? I stared at the looping handwriting, desperate for more. A sudden knock at the door jolted me upright. It was nearly midnight. I crept to the peephole and saw a man in a cheap suit, shifting nervously. He slid a note under my door before disappearing into the stairwell. The note was blunt, scrawled in angry red ink. Stop digging, or next time it won't be a warning. My whole life, I'd longed for family. Now it felt like I'd inherited a curse. Still, I couldn't stop. I needed answers, even if it meant risking everything. The next morning, someone had slashed my tires. And tucked under my windshield wiper was a faded photograph, my mother, Devlin, and a baby in her arms. The baby's face was scratched out. I stared at the photo for what felt like hours, tracing the ghostly outline of the baby's face, mutilated by a furious hand. The anger in that single gesture was chilling. Someone wanted this memory erased, and now they wanted to erase my curiosity, too. Who had taken the time to find my car, to vandalize both my tires and my past? With no way to drive, I called a cab and headed straight to my childhood home, desperate for answers my parents would never give. My brother answered the door, half-dressed, eyes red. Back for another guilt trip? He spat. Or you here to gloat about your big win? The sarcasm stung, but I pressed on, showing him the photograph. For a split second, something flickered in his expression, recognition, maybe fear, but then he slammed the door in my face. I called my sister next. She hung up before I could even finish saying hello. It hit me then. If my own family was shutting me out, they either knew something or wanted me to stop asking questions. I felt more alone than ever. I returned to my apartment to find a business card slipped under my door. Private Investigations, L. Hammond. A number was scribbled on the back. Swallowing my nerves, I called. A gravelly voice answered on the second ring. You're not the only one looking for the truth. Meet me at midnight. Come alone. The hours crawled by until midnight. I found Hammond waiting at a diner, face shadowed under a battered hat. He slid into the booth across from me, never quite meeting my eyes. Devlin wasn't just a stranger. Hammond murmured. He was a lifeline and a threat. You're in the middle of something bigger than money. He handed me a thick file. Before I could ask what he meant, the windows rattled with the roar of an engine outside. Headlights flooded the diner. Hammond's eyes went wide. They found you. Go now. As I rushed out the back door, file clutched to my chest, I knew I wasn't just searching for answers anymore. I was running for my life. I ducked into the alley behind the diner, heart pounding, Hammond's file pressed to my chest. The roar of the engine faded into the night, but my fear didn't. Who were they? Why was everyone so determined to keep me from the truth? I found a flickering streetlight and crouched beneath it, tearing open the file with shaking hands. Inside were copies of old adoption records, black and white photos, and pages of yellowed correspondence between Devlin and my mother. One letter, dated months before my birth, read, "If the child ever finds out, it could destroy everything. I'm trusting you, M, to make the right choice for his safety and your own." My breath caught. Adoption records. Was Devlin my real father? Had my parents lied to me my entire life? The file also included surveillance photos of my family. Recent. Someone had been watching us for years. I thumbed through the rest of the documents, desperate for something solid, when I noticed an address scribbled in the margins. 32, Willow Lane. Truth inside. I took a cab there before I could talk myself out of it. The house was abandoned, windows boarded, but a single light glowed in the attic. As I approached, the front door creaked open on its own. Every instinct told me to run, but I stepped inside, determined. The floorboards groaned under my weight. Dust danced in the thin sliver of moonlight as I climbed the stairs. The attic door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open, pulse thundering. Inside, walls were lined with photos, news clippings, and maps connecting Devlin, my mother, and me. In the center of the room, a woman stood, her back to me, shoulders tense. "Why did you come here?" she whispered, not turning around. Before I could answer, glass shattered somewhere downstairs. Someone else was in the house. I realized, too late, that every answer only led to more danger, and the past was about to catch up with all of us. I froze at the sound of shattering glass below, my pulse hammering so loud I almost missed the woman's next words. "You have to leave," she hissed, finally turning to face me. The attic bulb flickered over a face etched with fear, older than my mother would have been, but with her same wary eyes. "Who are you?" I demanded, backing toward the door. The floor creaked beneath my feet. Every instinct screamed at me to run. But she blocked my path, one trembling hand raised. "My name is Evelyn. I was Harold's sister. He made me promise to protect you if things ever unraveled." Her voice broke on the last word. "They never told you, did they? Not about the deal, not about who you really are." Another crash downstairs. My skin prickled as footsteps pounded up the stairs, heavy and urgent. "Listen to me," Evelyn pleaded, grabbing my wrist with surprising strength. "Your father, Harold, he tried to keep you out of all this. Your mother begged him. She thought giving you to her husband would keep you safe. But you were always being watched, by people who want Devlin's secrets, not just his money." The door slammed open. Two men in dark jackets burst in, faces hidden by shadows. Evelyn shoved a yellowed envelope into my hand. "Take it. Run." I bolted past the men, ducking their outstretched arms, and half fell down the staircase, clutching the envelope to my chest. I sprinted into the night, lungs burning, not daring to look back. At a deserted bus stop, I tore open the envelope. Inside was a birth certificate, my name, my mother's name, and in the father's space, Harold L. Devlin. My hands shook. The truth was undeniable, but scribbled on the back was something even more chilling. "They know who you are now. You can't trust your family. Trust no one." The next morning, the local news blared a headline that made my blood run cold. "Victorian house fire. 1 dead. Arson suspected." I had no idea if Evelyn had made it out alive, or if the fire had just destroyed the last safe place I had left. I watched the news report in numb disbelief, replaying the footage of the smoldering Victorian. The only detail they gave was one fatality. No names, no interviews, just a brief shot of a charred attic window. Guilt gnawed at me. Had Evelyn died because of me? Or had she escaped, vanishing into the same shadows that now seemed to follow me everywhere? My phone buzzed. An unknown number, another blocked call. Against my better judgment, I answered. A man's voice, slick and cold. You're getting close, kid. But this can all end if you just sign it all away. Come to the address in the file. Alone. He hung up before I could speak. Panic twisted inside me. But so did something sharper, defiance. They wanted me to back off, to walk away from Devlin's fortune and the truth of who I was. I thought of the scratched-out baby photo, the red ink threats, the family that had turned their backs on me. No, running wasn't an option anymore. I spent the morning studying every page of the file Hammond had given me, piecing together Devlin's hidden life. There were notes about a company, Shadowgate Holdings, linked to criminal shell corporations, bribes, and lawsuits. My father, Harold, had apparently been a whistleblower, then paid the price for stepping out of line. But why leave everything to me? And why had my mother kept all this secret? I needed more. I needed someone who understood the legal maze. Swallowing my pride, I called my cousin Nora, a lawyer who'd always seemed more outsider than family. She agreed to meet at a crowded cafe. When I slid her the documents, her eyes widened. You need protection, she whispered, voice trembling. And whatever you do, don't go to the police. Some of these signatures, they're people in power. A chill ran through me as Nora handed the file back. If you want to survive this, you have to play their game. And you need to find out what happened to Evelyn. Fast. Just then, my phone pinged with a new message. A photo of me, taken that morning, with the words, "You're next." Every shadow now felt like a threat, and I was done hiding. Fear tried to root me in place, but anger burned hotter. I wasn't just some pawn in a game I didn't understand. I was done letting everyone else write my story. I texted Nora, "If I'm not back in 2 hours, send everything to the media." She didn't argue, just replied with a trembling thumbs up. I went to the address from the file, a dilapidated warehouse on the edge of town, the kind of place you'd expect a trap, not a conversation. I took the envelope with my birth certificate and tucked a recording app into my pocket, praying I was more clever than scared. Inside, the air was thick with dust and old oil. 2 men waited by a makeshift table, their eyes flat, calculating. One wore a suit that barely fit, the other a battered leather jacket. Between them lay a contract and a pen. "You sign, this all goes away," Suit said, gesturing. "You keep quiet, we pay you off. No more digging, no more trouble." "And if I don't?" My voice cracked, but didn't break. Leather jacket grinned. "You really want to test that?" I glanced at the contract. Hush money, a fraction of Devlin's fortune. But there was a clause. All claims to the estate forfeit, and an NDA so airtight I'd disappear if I even whispered the truth. "Why me?" I pressed. "Why does this matter so much?" Suit scoffed. "You're not special. You're just inconvenient." I leaned forward, letting my anger show. "If anything happens to me, everything I know goes public. My cousin has it all." Their expressions flickered. Fear, or maybe just annoyance. "You're bluffing," Leather Jacket said, but his hand twitched near his pocket. A distant crash echoed through the warehouse. Someone else had arrived. Panic sparked in the men's eyes. I snatched the contract, tearing it in half. A woman's voice rang out, strong and familiar. "Let him go." Evelyn, alive, bruised but furious, stepped into the light holding a phone, live streaming the confrontation. The men bolted. Evelyn grabbed my arm. "Come on. You're not safe, yet." As we fled into the night, I realized the tide had finally turned. For the first time, I wasn't running alone. We ran through the darkness, Evelyn clutching my hand as we weaved between rusted cars and broken fences behind the warehouse. When we finally slowed, both of us gasping, she turned to me, wild-eyed. "They want the Devlin estate for more than money. There are files, proof of what Shadowgate did, people they bribed. That's what you really inherited." My mind raced. That's why everyone wants me to shut up. Not because I'm Devlin's kid, but because I might have evidence to ruin them all. Evelyn nodded, catching her breath. "Harold hid it somewhere only you can find. He always said, the truth belongs to the one who's lost everything. You have nothing to lose, so you're the only one who can end this." A distant siren wailed, too close. Evelyn steered us to her battered old car. As we sped away, she explained, "Harold and my mother met as teenagers, long before she married the man I'd grown up calling Dad. When she got pregnant, she chose safety over honesty, fearing Devlin's enemies. Your mom thought she was protecting you, but she hated the lie. That's why she distanced herself." Her words landed like stones. All those years of feeling unwanted, a stranger in my own home. Was it all to protect me from the truth? We stopped at a dingy motel. Evelyn tossed me a thumb drive. Harold's clues start in the cabin your sister inherited. I can't go with you. I'm a target, too. But if you find the ledger, take it to Nora. She's the only one who might keep you alive. I looked at Evelyn, her face lined with guilt and hope. Why help me? I asked. Because I failed Harold once. I won't fail you. As I sat alone in the motel room, turning the thumb drive over in my hands, my phone vibrated. A new message, just 3 words. Tick-tock, traitor. Whatever waited at that cabin, I knew this was my last chance. For justice, for truth, maybe even for family. The drive to the lake cabin was the longest of my life. Each mile, I rehearsed what I'd say if I ran into my sister, if someone else was waiting, or if I found nothing at all. I checked my rearview mirror, so often I started to imagine headlights that weren't there. When I finally pulled up, the water was slate gray and choppy, and the windows of the cabin stared back at me, empty and blind. The front door was locked, but the spare key still sat in the same chipped flower pot. Some family habits never die. Inside, it smelled of dust and pine, but everything else had changed. My sister's suitcases were stacked by the wall, but she was nowhere to be seen. I crept through the rooms, searching for clues, anything Devlin or my mother might have hidden. In the master bedroom, I found a photo album tucked beneath loose floorboards. The last page held a map, hand-drawn and marked with an X at the boathouse down by the dock. My breath caught. The ledger had to be there. I hurried down, heart racing, nearly slipping on the damp wood. The boathouse was padlocked, but the old key still fit. Inside, it was musty and dark, the air thick with the scent of lake water and rot. I ran my hands along the rafters, desperate, and finally found a metal box wedged behind a row of fishing rods. I fumbled with the lock until it snapped open. Inside was a battered leather ledger, filled with columns of numbers, coded names, dates, and cash transactions, a record of every bribe and payoff, implicating Shadowgate Holdings and, chillingly, several local officials. Names I recognized, even my family's lawyer. Suddenly, footsteps crunched on the gravel outside. I shoved the ledger into my backpack and pressed myself against the wall. A voice floated in through the cracks, icy and familiar. My sister. I told you he'd come. He can't let things go. Another voice, male, menacing. Get the ledger. And if he fights, make him disappear, like Devlin. Trapped, I realized the final battle for the truth had begun, and it was family against blood. My chest tightened as I crouched in the dark, the ledger pressed to my heart. I recognized my sister's tone, flat, cold, nothing like the girl I'd once trusted with all my childhood secrets. Through the thin boathouse walls, I heard gravel crunching, angry footsteps getting closer. I scanned the room for anything I could use, a rusted or a heavy tackle box. Then the door rattled, hinges squealing. My sister's face appeared, her eyes rimmed red but steely with determination. Behind her was a man I recognized from the warehouse, leather jacket, fists clenched. Give it to me, my sister hissed. This is the only way we all survive. I held the ledger tighter. Why? What are you involved in, Sarah? She faltered, then spat. Dad's debts. Mom's secrets. The bribes. Devlin paid them all. If this gets out, everyone goes down. We were trying to protect you. Leather jacket shoved her aside, stepping toward me. Last chance, kid. Rage bubbled up, at my family, at the men who thought I'd just give up. I swung the tackle box at him, catching him off guard. Sarah screamed as I bolted out the back, nearly tripping on the dock planks. Shots rang out behind me, splintering the wood. I sprinted to the end of the dock and dove into the icy lake, the ledger held above my head. Bullets hissed through the water as I swam for the far shore, lungs burning, fear driving every stroke. When I staggered out, soaked and shivering, I collapsed behind a boulder. The ledger was safe. My phone buzzed. Nora, frantic. They know where you are? Police are coming, and they're not on your side. Get to the city. Now. I looked back at the chaos, my sister, screaming my name from the dock. The world I'd known was gone, burned away by betrayal and blood. I gripped the ledger, set my jaw, and ran. For the first time, I knew exactly what I had to do. I ran through the woods, branches slapping my face, adrenaline numbing the sting. My wet clothes clung to me, and every sound made me flinch. Was it my sister? Leather jacket? The police? The whole world had become a maze of threats. But the ledger's weight in my backpack was a reminder. I finally had the power to end this. I called Nora as I reached the main road, breathless. I've got it. The ledger. But they're everywhere. Come to my office. Underground parking, level 3. I'll be waiting. Hurry, she whispered, voice tight with fear. A battered sedan screeched to a stop ahead. Evelyn behind the wheel, face drawn but determined. Get in, she called. No time for questions. I dove into the passenger seat as she floored it, tires screaming. Your sister, she's deeper in this than you know, Evelyn said. She didn't just protect family. She protected herself. She took money too. My heart twisted. She tried to kill me. She's scared. They're using her as leverage. We weaved through back roads. Every car behind us a potential enemy. Police scanners crackled on the dash. Alerts for a dangerous fugitive. My name broadcast as if I were the criminal. My phone buzzed with unknown numbers, threatening texts, offers to make a deal. I clung to the ledger, trusting no one but Evelyn and Nora. When we reached the city, Evelyn pulled into a dark parking garage, glancing at me with a mix of pride and regret. Once you do this, there's no going back. I don't want the money. I want the truth. She nodded. Good. Because once it's out, you'll need friends more than fortune. We hurried to Nora's office, taking back stairwells and side doors. As we entered, Nora met us with wild eyes and trembling hands. We have to act now, she said, or they'll silence all of us. I've already sent copies to 3 journalists. The rest is up to you. Suddenly, the building's fire alarm blared. Heavy footsteps thundered in the hallway. The final confrontation had arrived, and it was now or never. Red lights strobed and sirens screamed through Nora's office. The air tasted like adrenaline and fear. Nora slammed her laptop shut, shoving the thumb drive and original ledger into my hands. Go to the stairwell now. Evelyn and I will hold them off. Get to the lobby, blend with the crowd. Don't let anyone see what you have. Trust no one. I hesitated, but Evelyn grabbed my shoulder. Run. You're the only one who can finish this. I bolted down the hall, the shouts of men echoing behind me. I ducked into a service stairwell, nearly tripping as I pounded down flight after flight, hugging the backpack to my chest. On the 3rd floor, a door burst open. A cop, uniform crisp, eyes cold. Freeze, he barked. My mind spun. I remembered Nora's warning. Not all police were safe. I faked a stumble, barreled past him, and sprinted down 2 more flights. Bursting into the crowded lobby, I hunched my shoulders, tucked the backpack under my coat, and moved with the flow of people. A hand grabbed my wrist. My heart stopped. It was Nora. She pulled me close, whispering, "We sent everything. Ledger, files, even the recordings. Journalists have it all. There's no going back. You did it." A crash sounded behind us, police and security surging into the lobby. Evelyn, trailing them, shouted, "Go." Out the side exit. We ran into the chaos of the street, sirens blaring, people scattering in all directions. The city had swallowed us, but the truth was out. I checked my phone. Journalists were calling, social media exploding with leaks, Shadowgate exposed, local officials resigning, criminal investigations launched. Amid the chaos, my sister called. Her voice was wrecked with tears. "I'm sorry. I didn't know what else to do. Can you ever forgive me?" I wanted to scream, to rage, to ask how she could betray me and herself. But all I could do was whisper, maybe someday, but not now. For the first time in my life, I wasn't running from my family's secrets. I was free, and the world finally knew the truth. But as I looked at Nora and Evelyn, I realized freedom wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. In the days that followed, everything changed. The news broke like a tidal wave, exposing Shadowgate's network, implicating politicians, police, even community leaders. The city buzzed with scandal, and everywhere I went, strangers looked at me with a mix of awe and suspicion. I was the whistleblower, the mystery heir, the kid who'd brought down a dynasty of corruption. But I was also just a person, still grieving, still aching for answers only my parents could give. My family splintered further. My brother sent a one-line email. "You ruined us." My sister disappeared, her number disconnected. I found out later she'd turned state's witness, bargaining the truth for protection. Evelyn, battered but unbroken, stayed by my side, a survivor in her own right. Nora became my anchor, guiding me through courtrooms and interviews, teaching me how to protect myself, not just from enemies, but from the vultures that come with fame. There were nights I lay awake, haunted by everything I'd lost, my illusions, my childhood, the hope that my parents might have truly loved me. But in the quiet moments, I felt something else, the first glimmer of peace. I wasn't the child left out anymore. I was someone who'd faced the worst and chosen to fight back. One rainy afternoon, I visited my parents' graves for the first time since the reading of the will. I left a single photograph behind, the one of my mother, Harold Devlin, and the baby with the scratched-out face. "I know now," I whispered, "and I forgive you. Maybe not for everything, but for enough." As I walked away, the world felt wide open and uncertain. I had money I never asked for, a future I never imagined, and scars that would take years to heal. But I also had something my parents never gave me, a chance to write my own story, to choose who I would become. Sometimes, justice means losing everything. Sometimes, freedom is the only real inheritance. And sometimes, in the ashes of betrayal, you find the family you build yourself.